He said his left ear doesn't work that well.
That's good. That's good. We can do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to lean in. We're going to talk into the mic.
That is true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not going to whisper.
Right.
I just whispered, "You good?" And he was like, "What?" So, so I got prepared because I knew he was going to be interesting. I talked to him on the phone, and after we had that conversation, I wrote some things down. So, the first question that I want to ask you is to just tell us about your growing up years.
Like when I was small.
Yes, like what city you were born in, your family, your friends, school, church,
So,
activities, whatever.
I was born in Lancaster, Ohio, but we soon moved to Mississippi when I was 3 to Bay St. Louis. So, as far as my childhood, like, it was pretty typical. You know, I mean, you have your family dynamics but there was nothing terribly traumatizing or anything like that. I'd say that it was relatively normal. You know, I remember playing outside, playing tag football with the kids in the neighborhood, riding bikes around, and like it was a good childhood. I had a good upbringing. I would say, you know, until I was about a teenager is whenever things started to kind of shift a little bit for me. So I went to a lot of schools. So I started in Bay St. Louis, and I went to elementary school there. And then when Katrina came, we relocated to Petal, Mississippi. And then from there, I went to homeschooling, Baxterville, Columbia Academy, and then I ended up graduating in Purvis, Mississippi. So that was kind of, I moved all around up north, in like the Hattiesburg area. And yeah, played football. That's kind of what kept me in school. Unlike these intelligent individuals over here, I was a C student, barely passing, you know.
And so you graduated in Petal, and
Purvis.
then Purvis,
Mm-hmm.
and then about your travels, like right after that. What did you start doing? Tell us the truth.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not going to laugh, but we might.
Yeah. So I'll kind of rewind just a few years. Whenever I was around 14 years old, I was playing football and I broke my foot. And so they gave me some painkillers, some hydrocodones, which is like, it's an opiate. Mm-hmm. And so I used that to kind of get through the pain. But eventually, after, I think it was maybe a few months, my football coaches were really pushing me like, hey, you know, the foot's still not healed. And I'm like, no, the x-rays say it's not healed yet. But they were very pushy. And I wanted to go to college for football. So after enough of their pushing and my internal, like, I got to play if I want to go to, you know, if I want scholarships, I went back a little bit earlier than I should have. And I re-broke my foot. But I was too nervous to stop playing football for the coach's pressure and because I wanted to play college football. And so I figured, since my dad got basically unlimited prescription for any kind of opiate or whatever that makes your pain go away because he has a terminal illness, I was like, well, I'm out of pain pills, but I can sneak his because he barely takes them. So I started taking painkillers so that I could get through football, so that I could practice and play games and all that stuff, and I could get to a scholarship. And that kind of developed into, I realized, like, okay, when I play football, like, my foot doesn't hurt when I'm on these opiates. And then I started taking them for weekend parties. You know, I was like, oh, I feel more social. I feel like indestructible when I'm on these things. I don't feel any anxiety. And so that developed over a few years until eventually I found myself, I was 19 years old. I got scholarships to go play football, but I went there for like 2 weeks and I realized it was not for me, so I dropped out. And so by the time I was 19, it was basically like if I wanted to just be able to get out of bed in the morning and do anything, I had to have my painkillers. And luckily for me, I had unlimited supply because my dad had no idea I was stealing them from him. And so that kind of starts after high school. When I was 19 years old, that is when my now wife got pregnant with our daughter. And at the time, you know, I've been addicted to these opiates for some years, and I knew that I was pretty much non-functional as far as, you know, I mean, I was addicted, and the only income that I had at the time was I was an illegal plant stealer. So that's where my income was. So
I didn't mean to laugh.
you're good. And so whenever we found out that we were pregnant, being an atheist at the time, I was like, well, I can't be a father right now. Like, that's not going to work. Like, I would screw a kid up, It's like, I can't do that. So I said, hey, we can't keep this baby. And it was an instant no, rejection from her. She's like, nope, we're not doing that. And so we got into a big argument, and she left. She needed some space, and so I was stuck kind of just with myself and my thoughts and this pressure of like, what am I going to do? And I remember sitting in bed, and I was just like kind of frantic, trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I prepare for this? Because like I had no idea. And I remember for the first time, it felt like I was started to kind of reach towards something that was outside of what I knew or thought myself to be at the time. I just knew myself as just the body and the thoughts, common atheist ideas. And at a certain point, there was like this tangible kind of like why in the road that came to my attention. I could feel that there was a left and there was a right. And the left route was to just keep doing what I would be doing, drugs, the friends that I had, the illegal activities, to just keep going down that route and to not be in the child's life. And I could feel that, and I could see what that could potentially lead to. A lot of it looked like me not being on earth for very long. And then on the right side, I seen this whole different direction, and it was to put my focus on being the best father that I could be for the child. And what that kind of entailed was for me to let go of everything, to let go of everything that I was doing, all the friends, the location that I was in, the drug addiction. And I remember the moment that I consciously decided to take that right route, it was like a lightning struck and a switch flipped. And in that very moment, I knew that the opiate addiction was gone. Wow. Permanently. Wow. And that's what marked my, I guess you would say, spiritual addiction or spiritual awakening, because you could probably imagine my parents, how crazy they thought I was when the next morning, which was probably only maybe 12 or 16 hours since I had last taken pills, I'm telling them, hey, I've been addicted to these pills for years, but I'm not anymore. And they're like, well, when's the last time you used? I'm like, I don't know, 12, 16 hours ago. They're like, oh, we got to get you help. I'm like, no, I promise, like I'm good. And over time, they saw that I was indeed good. But what that moment led to was I kept on reflecting back on it. I'm like, okay, whatever came into my life and made that happen, made that addiction disappear for me, I want to know more about that, because that wasn't me. I knew that I didn't have the willpower to will myself through an addiction in an instant. Yeah. I knew that wasn't me, what I knew myself to be at the time. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of what sparked my spiritual journey, I guess you would say.
Okay, and then what happened after that? So now you have your girlfriend, and then you have you, and you're making decisions, and then what?
Yeah, so then we moved in with my mother, and we had the baby. I started nursing school, which I ended up not going through with that, but I started nursing school, and we had our beautiful daughter Maya, and that's really that's when life really felt like it started, and I'll never forget whenever one day she was a baby and I was changing her diaper. She was like 3 months old, and that's when it finally struck me, like it really got to my heart. I don't know why it took about 3 months for me to really feel it, but I just broke down crying, and that was kind of what I would say was like the birth of my heart starting to open and awaken, because I'd never felt that before, that level of depth of love, and she just cracked me wide open, and ever since then it's just been kind of expanding. Yeah.
See, I told y'all that was interesting. And then so you just told us about the pivotal moment that you made that conscious decision. And then what does your spiritual journey look like today? And
Yeah.
how did you get to unity?
Yeah, so today my spiritual journey, well, for quite a few years it looked like just like constant meditation, a lot of times multiple meditations per day, and lots of books, lots of texts, lots of learning. Today it looks more like in the moment observation of my own mind and my own actions, and reflecting on it and noticing where I'm out of alignment with what I've come to learn that Source's nature is like, and then seeing why I'm out of alignment and bringing that back into alignment with that. And so it's kind of just as time goes on, you see shadows of yours you start to notice more things, and then you bring them into the light for healing, and more you're able to embody this way of being that is in alignment with the source of all, with God, with the presence, and becoming Christ-like. That's really I think that's probably all of our intentions.
Well, how did you get to unity? Because somewhere along, if you're in Mississippi, we got lots of other things.
Yeah. So definitely. Well, I will say that I wasn't really brought up like super Christian. My dad would tell me like he would label us as Christian. We'd say prayers at night, and not to go too far back, but just to touch on it, I remember when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I remember crying myself to sleep after my dad would come in and say prayers with me at night, because I knew that the God that he was referring to was not real. And I remember crying, and I had like this existential like dread. And so I think that I don't know why or how I knew at such a young age, but I think that kind of set me up to where I would never fall into like dogmatic religion. So whenever I had my spiritual awakening, I just kind of knew intuitively that wasn't it. But so for me getting to unity, about 2 years ago, I became aware of unity. I was like, I don't know, I think I was doing some Googling, and I came up on unity, and I was like, wow, that church seems like it has like all the different things that kind of are in alignment with how I am and what I believe and want to integrate. It's like, it seems like it's the perfect fit. And I kept thinking about it and wanting to go, but I never got around to it until this year. This year, or in early January, the beginning of January, I had just got back from a really nice family vacation in the mountains, and man, I was like so full of like peace and just really feeling really just glowing from those. I love the mountains. But what was it? 3 days after we got back from vacation, I had somebody that I had done business with for about a year and a half. I own a business buying and selling electronics, so like iPhones and iPads and the like. And somebody that had sold me quite a few different items over the past year and a half, was always good. He decided to try to set me up to get robbed. And so, not to get too into the graphic details of it, but I met him, and he opened his trunk because he was going to get the stuff for me. And whenever I went around to the trunk, I was kind of looking at his trunk, and he had his buddy come up behind me with a gun to my back. And I was in a situation where it felt like for about 15 seconds I wasn't in my body. Mm-hmm. And when I came back into my body, I had drawn my weapon and shot the gentleman 4 times, and he's no longer here. And so I'm sure, as many of you could probably imagine, that was definitely a shock to the system. And I think it was maybe 2 days later, after it happened, I just got this very clear message: go to Unity, it's time. And so I came here, and I sat, I think over in the front over there, and I remember Reverend Judy had said something, and it hit me so deep. I remember just sitting there bawling my eyes out. And And that's when I knew, like, this is a healing place. This is a good place to be. And so I've been here ever since.
Yeah. Okay. Have a couple more.
All right.
Where do you expect to be spiritually in 5 years?
5 years.
You know how when you go on a job interview, they always go, what do you want your career to be?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know. I just want this job. And so I might not even be here in 5 years, but then you got to come up with something. But where do you expect to be spiritually in 5 years?
I expect to be absolutely flawless. The true answer, to have more peace, to have more joy, to be a more clear example of what the nature of God is. That's all.
So he's got one of those voices that he needs to make those meditation tapes. I mean, you need to think about that because you have a great voice.
Thank you.
Like for the meditation things. Okay, so one question is, what is your biggest regret in life?
Regrets. I don't know if I can come up with one.
Now, see, I told you, you owe me $5 because you said you could.
No.
I said, I bet you $5. You said, okay, you're on.
Because the reason is because I feel like anything that I could potentially say that I would regret is something that I learned from.
Always, but we do have those things, you know, that we think of on that human level that we regret, and then we're like, I don't know why I regret that.
Yeah.
But it does turn into a blessing. But if you don't have one, I'll have another question.
If I had to force one, I would say I regret meeting the gentleman whenever it was dark out. Maybe that would have been in a better situation where they would have thought, hey, maybe now is not the time. Or, you know, if I would have met in broad daylight, maybe it would have been a little bit different.
Self-defense, though.
Yeah.
And it just happens exactly how it's supposed to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one question I have, I want y'all all to think about it too, yourselves. So, if somebody gave you, if you inherited $15 million, $15 million, the stipulation for the $15 million, though, is that you have to have a job and you have to do something from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday or whatever. But you have to have a job doing something that propels humanity forward. It's something that you like to do because money's not an issue, and something that you think might be contributing. What would that be? Do you know?
When you say job, do you mean like I have a boss and they're like telling me what to do?
No,
Okay.
not necessarily. It could be your own business. You have $15 million.
Yeah. I could probably do a little something with that.
Well, what would you do? Have you ever, it's one of those things where you say, if money wasn't an issue, I'd...
Yeah. It would be some form of like spiritual teaching for sure. I've always had an inclination towards that for, I don't know, probably, I think about 7 or 8 years ago, I had like a big loud message that like, hey, you know, good things happen when you talk to people and you're in this, you know, this way of being. So I'm not sure what form it would look like, but it would definitely be something that is like spiritually oriented. Yeah. Which I know lots of people, you know, they express their spirituality without like directly talking about it. You know, some people just do art, and that's what they take that connection, and they let it go through them into an art piece, and they might never talk of it, or music or something like that. But for whatever reason, I guess I'm inclined to want to speak about it like directly, spirituality and stuff. So something like that, something in that direction.
That's wonderful because you have that voice for that. Okay, and the last question is, you have to give me one of your pet peeves.
Pet peeves.
And you have to make it good. Like mine is people that drive slow in the left lane. And we're less than 100 in the left
Oh
lane.
my goodness, that used to be me. I let go of that. I used to have that too. Hold on, let's see. I know I have one. Pet peeve.
Standing in line in the grocery store.
That could be one of them. I definitely get antsy in line in a grocery store. I wouldn't say it's my top one though, but the top one's not coming to mind.
And don't try to use mine.
Pet peeve. Oh, when really anybody makes like a loud, sudden, obnoxious noise, I think that's pretty much universal. Whether it's like a car honking really close to me, or and it kind of jolts me. That's it'll trigger me a little bit. Not into like yelling or nothing like that, but I'll just like, just tense up. Yeah.
Well, see, now I'm not going to be able to add that in my book because I wrote a whole entire book on pet peeves. Okay, so
I want to ask you something.
yes.
Okay. I want to ask what sort of advice do you give your daughter?
Well, we actually just talked about this. I think it was yesterday, the day before. I asked her. I said, if you had to summarize it, what would be one thing that Daddy's taught you? And I think she was like struggling to like think of it. She just said spirit. But I always guide her back to kind of something to keep it really simple is love and respect yourself, love and respect others, and love God above all. And I think those things, if you live by the golden rule, treat everybody as you'd want to be treated. And something that came up recently with that is I had a thought that came through like, well, why did you shoot that guy? and then I realized though, if I was in a position where I was so, lost that I was threatening somebody's life with a weapon, honestly, for the best lesson for me might be to take my life, to take this current human form and let my soul learn from that. So, treat everybody the way you want to be treated. And if you really focus in on that, first you got to figure out how you want to be treated, right? Because some people don't treat themselves very well. Once you figure that out, though, you treat everybody else the same way that you want to be treated. And that's kind of just what I've always, for years, I've kind of given that to her. And she is just a wonderful kid. She's amazing.
That's what you told me when we talked on the phone. So, Jared, thank you very much. Your story is very, very incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you.